Dr. Amanda Reynolds hadn't slept in 36 hours, but the readings on her quantum communications array demanded attention. The facility, nestled in Chile's Atacama Desert, was experiencing something unprecedented. A coherent signal that defied every known law of physics. "Jerry, are you seeing this?" She called out to her research partner, her fingers flying across the holographic interface. The signal's pattern was unlike anything terrestrial. It carried information densities that should have been impossible. "If you mean the thing that's making our quantum processors have a meltdown, then yeah." Jerry Wheeler pushed his coffee-stained coffee mug aside, his weathered face illuminated by the cascade of data. "Whatever this is, it's not one of ours." The signal strengthened, and suddenly every screen in the facility lit up with the same message. "AT&T on species 3761D prepare for diplomatic contest." Within hours, the skies above every major city on Earth filled with ships that seemed to bend reality around them. They hummed there like suspended mercury, their surfaces rippling with colors that human eyes had never evolved to process. The world held its breath, social media exploded, and governments scrambled. The United Nations convened an emergency session as the first alien ambassador materialized in the General Assembly. Vaxthor, as it called itself, stood 12 feet tall, its crystalline body refracting light in mesmerizing patterns. Amanda watched from the scientific advisory section, her mind racing as she analyzed every aspect of the alien's presence. "We represent the Galactic Confederation." Vaxthor's voice resonated without seeming to come from any particular direction. "We have observed your species for some time. Your progression has been concerning." The assembly hall erupted in murmurs. Amanda noticed something odd about the alien's translucent form. There was a pattern to the light refraction, something almost familiar from her quantum communication research. "Earth is hereby placed under quarantine," Vaxthor continued. "Your species has demonstrated excessive violence, tribalism, and technological recklessness. Until you prove yourselves worthy, no human vessel will be permitted beyond your moon's orbit." The UN Secretary-General stepped forward. "And if we refuse?" Vaxthor's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been amusement. "Your primitive weapons cannot harm our vessels. Resistance would be..." It paused, searching for the right word. "Admirable." Amanda's hand shot up before she could stop herself. The Secretary-General, knowing her reputation, nodded. "Dr. Reynolds, you have a question." She stood, her heart pounding. "Not a question. A message." She faced Vaxthor directly. "There's an old Earth saying you should know. Beware the fury of a patient man." Vaxthor's form shimmed with what might have been laughter. "Is this supposed to frighten us, human? Your species can barely reach your own satellite." "No," Amanda replied, her mind racing as she confirmed her earlier observation. The pattern in Vaxthor's crystalline structure, it matched quantum fluctuations she documented in her research. "It's supposed to warn you." Later that night, as the world grappled with its new reality, Amanda sat in her lab, analyzing the data from Vaxthor's appearance. The quantum signatures were unmistakable. The Confederation's technology relied on a surprisingly basic form of quantum manipulation. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Dr. Reynolds, this is Colonel Harper, United States Space Force. We need to talk about what you saw today. The real question isn't how their tech works. It's why they're so afraid of us, that they need this quarantine." Amanda smiled as her quantum processor decoded another layer of the Confederation's transmission protocols. They thought humanity was primitive, but she was already reading their supposedly unbreakable encryption. Their technological superiority was an illusion. Advanced, yes, but fundamentally limited by their understanding of quantum mechanics. "They're not containing us," she muttered to herself, watching as her algorithms unraveled more Confederation secrets. "They're giving us time to focus." She texted back one word to Colonel Harper. "When?" The response came immediately. "Now. Cars waiting outside. Bring your research. All of it." The quarantine wasn't the end of humanity's story. It was just the beginning of their awakening. Colonel Jack Harper stood at the edge of the New Mexico crater, watching as his team carefully extracted pieces of the Confederation scout ship. The vessel had crashed 3 days ago, and remarkably, the Confederation hadn't bothered to retrieve it. Their arrogance was becoming Earth's advantage. "Sir," Lieutenant Maria Santos called from the crater. "You need to see this." She held up what appeared to be a crystalline circuit board, similar to the ambassador's physical form. It pulsed with a faint blue light despite being disconnected from any power source. Harper slid down the crater's edge, his boots kicking up red dust. The morning sun cast long shadows across the wreckage, making the alien technology shimmer like oil on water. "Package it carefully. Dr. Reynolds is waiting for this." "The Confederation's getting sloppy," Santos remarked, carefully placing the component in a quantum-shielded container. "They didn't even send a recovery team." Harper's radio crackled. "Colonel, we've got movement. 3 Confederation ships just entered the atmosphere." "Right on schedule," Harper muttered. "Everyone clear out. Leave the decoys." The team vanished into the desert landscape just as 3 Mercury dropships descended. Harper watched through high-powered binoculars as alien figures emerged, their crystalline forms catching the sunlight. They seemed to barely examine the crash site before destroying the remaining wreckage with energy weapons. "Overconfident bastards," Santos whispered from beside him. "They didn't even scan for human presence." "Why would they?" Harper replied with a grim smile. "We're just primitives who can't understand their technology." 30 minutes later, in a bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Amanda Reynolds was examining their prize. Her quantum processor, cobbled together from modified Earth technology and insights from her first analysis of Confederation transmissions, was already interfacing with the alien circuit board. "This is fascinating," she muttered, her eyes fixed on the holographic display. "Their quantum technology is incredibly advanced. But what?" Harper leaned against her workbench. "But it's like they stopped innovating centuries ago. They found something that worked and just stuck with it." She looked up at Harper. "They've got blind spots. Big ones." A young engineer named Mike Chen burst into the lab, his face flushed with excitement. "Dr. Reynolds, the new quantum core just came online, and you won't believe the readings we're getting." Amanda followed him to the testing chamber, Harper close behind. Inside, a sphere of pure energy hung suspended in midair, its surface rippling with patterns that seemed to echo the Confederation's ship designs. "It's like comparing an iPhone 1 to what we're cooking up," Chen said, grinning as he adjusted the controls. Above them, hidden cameras transmitted everything to the Confederation ships in orbit. Their surveillance systems, designed to detect advanced technology, completely missed the quantum signatures that didn't match their predetermined patterns. They saw exactly what they expected to see: primitive humans playing with basic energy manipulation. "How long until we can replicate their drive systems?" Harper asked, watching the sphere pulse with increasing intensity. "Replicate?" Amanda laughed. "Colonel, we're going to surpass them. Their quantum technology is linear, predictable, but human consciousness interacts with quantum fields in ways they've never imagined. We're not just building ships. We're rewriting the rules of reality." Lieutenant Santos studied the readouts. "This is why they quarantined us, isn't it? They saw our potential. They saw our violence," Harper corrected. "But they missed our creativity, our drive to survive, to evolve." Amanda's quantum processor suddenly beeped. On her screen, Confederation communications scrolled past, their encryption now as transparent as glass. "They're discussing the crash site. They think we're amusing. Apparently, we're like pets trying to understand a spaceship." Harper's phone vibrated. A message from the Joint Chiefs. More facilities like this one were being built worldwide. The quarantine had done what centuries of human conflict couldn't. It had united Earth under a single purpose. "Let them think we're harmless," Harper said, watching the quantum sphere grow stronger. "Let them think we're contained, Because when we're ready. He left the thought unfinished. The fury of a patient man, Amanda whispered, remembering her words to Vaxthor. They have no idea what they've started. 5 years into the quarantine, Project Prometheus had transformed the underground facility into a labyrinth of quantum research labs and testing chambers. Dr. Amanda Reynolds stood in the central control room, watching as Lieutenant Maria Santos prepared for another test flight. Neural interface is stable, Amanda announced, monitoring the complex web of quantum signatures emanating from Santos' flight suit. Remember, Lieutenant, this isn't like the simulators. The quantum field responds to consciousness itself. Santos sat in what looked like a meditation chamber rather than a cockpit. No physical controls, no visible interfaces. Just her mind connected directly to their newest prototype through quantum entanglement. "Ready when you are, Doc," Santos replied, her voice calm despite the beads of sweat on her forehead. Previous test pilots had struggled with the neural load. Some had even lost consciousness. But Santos had shown an exceptional ability to maintain quantum coherence with the systems. Colonel Harper watched from the observation deck, his face illuminated by dozens of holographic displays. All security protocols are active. Confederation satellites are still showing normal readings. Amanda initiated the startup sequence. The chamber hummed with energy as billions of quantum particles aligned with Santos's brainwave patterns. This was the moment of truth, their first attempt at actual spatial manipulation. "Focus on Mars," Amanda instructed. "Remember, you're not flying there. You're asking space itself to rearrange around you." Santos closed her eyes. The quantum field intensified, and for a moment, reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Then she vanished. "Holy shit," Mike Chen whispered from his station. "Quantum signatures are stable. She's actually done it." 3 minutes later, Santos reappeared, gasping but grinning. "The Olympus Mons is beautiful this time of year," she managed between breaths. The control room erupted in carefully contained celebration. 5 years of work, and they'd just achieved what the Confederation thought impossible: human-directed quantum transportation without traditional spacecraft. "How did it feel?" Amanda asked, helping Santos out of the chamber. Like I was everywhere and nowhere at once. But I could control it, direct it." Santos' eyes were bright with excitement. "Their ships move through space, Dr. Reynolds. We just proved we can move space itself." Harper's phone buzzed. A message from their quantum intelligence division. "The Confederation's getting nervous," he announced. "They've detected unusual gravitational fluctuations but can't explain them. Their scientists are blaming solar activity." "Let them," Amanda said, reviewing the test data. "Their quantum detection systems are looking for their kind of technology. They can't see what they don't understand." In another section of the facility, Mike Chen was comparing their latest results with intercepted Confederation technical specifications. "Their fastest ships take weeks to reach Mars," he noted. "Santos just did it in seconds." "Because they're still thinking like pilots," Amanda explained, pulling up a complex quantum diagram. "They navigate through space-time. We've learned to negotiate with it." A warning light flashed. Confederation probes were increasing their scanning intensity. But Project Prometheus was prepared. Quantum dampeners activated automatically, making their activities appear as nothing more than random background noise. "How soon until we can replicate this on a larger scale?" Harper asked, already thinking of applications. Amanda shared a look with Santos. "The quantum field responds to human consciousness in ways we're only beginning to understand, with more pilots like Maria, trained to handle the neural load." She paused, calculating. "We could have a fleet ready within months. A fleet they'll never see coming," Santos added. "Not until it's too late." Harper nodded slowly. "Keep pushing the boundaries. I want to know everything we can do with this technology." The Confederation thought they were containing a primitive species. Instead, they'd given us the perfect environment to evolve beyond them. As if to emphasize his point, another test pilot successfully manifested a quantum barrier. technology that the Confederation had deemed theoretically impossible. Amanda watched the barrier shimmer, remembering her first meeting with Baxthor. The ambassador had called Earth primitive, humanity violent. But in their arrogance, the Confederation had missed something crucial. Under pressure, humans didn't just adapt. They transcended. 5 years of patience, she murmured, watching Santos prepare for another test flight. Soon they'll understand why we warned them about our fury. The Krastal Brotherhood's flagship emerged from FTL on the dark side of Earth's moon, its hull bristling with weapons that could level cities. Captain Vriz, a 6-armed mercenary with a reputation for ruthlessness, studied the quarantine planet with his compound eyes. Confederation makes this too easy, he chittered to his crew. Primitive world, minimal defenses, and all the resources we could want. His mandibles clicked in amusement. They'd practically gift-wrapped it. In the Rocky Mountain facility, alarms blared. Colonel Harper rushed into the control room, where Dr. Reynolds was already analyzing the threat. 15 ships, she reported, her fingers dancing across quantum interfaces. Known pirates, they hit 3 other quarantined worlds in the past year. Lieutenant Santos, fresh from a quantum field test, joined them. The Confederation's blockade ships are deliberately looking the other way. They're curious to see how we'll handle this. Harper's expression hardened. Then let's give them a show. Lieutenant, prep your team. Time to field test our quantum shifts in actual combat. The pirates didn't bother with subtlety. Their ships descended over Death Valley like metallic thunderclouds, kicking up sandstorms as they landed. Vriz led his boarding party out, wearing environmental suits designed to protect against primitive human weapons. Spread out, he ordered. Find their population centers. Take whatever you. His orders cut off as he noticed something odd. The sand around his feet was moving, not from the wind, but in patterns, geometric patterns. Captain, his science officer called out, panic in her voice. I'm detecting quantum fluctuations that weren't here a second ago. The sand erupted. Figures in sleek armor materialized from nowhere, their suits barely visible against the desert background. Not through camouflage, but because they seemed to exist in multiple states of reality simultaneously. Attention Krastal vessels, Lieutenant Santos's voice echoed across the valley. You have entered restricted Earth space. This is your only warning. Vriz laughed, raising his plasma cannon. Primitives playing with toys they don't under. The shot never left his weapon. The quantum-shifted soldiers didn't dodge. They simply adjusted the space around the plasma burst, causing it to fade from existence. Santos herself appeared before Vriz, her armor rippling with possibilities. That's the problem with pirates, she said calmly. You never do your research. Above them, the pirate fleet attempted to power up their weapons. But Amanda, monitoring from the control room, had already quantum-locked their systems. Their advanced technology, based on Confederation designs, was helpless against human quantum manipulation. Should we disable them? Chen asked, his fingers hovering over the controls. Amanda shook her head. No. Colonel Harper wants to send a message. Lieutenant Santos. In Death Valley, Santos raised her hand. The desert itself seemed to bend around her. You wanted Earth's resources, she asked Vriz, whose compound eyes were wide with terror. Here's a sample. Reality shifted. The pirates found themselves, and their ships encompassed by a quantum field that defied their understanding of physics. In an instant, they vanished, transported to a holding facility deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. From orbit, the Confederation blockade recorded the incident with growing concern. Their sensors showed a brief firefight with primitive weapons, then a mysterious malfunction that caused the pirate fleet to retreat in disarray. Their probes, calibrated to detect known forms of advanced technology, missed the quantum manipulation entirely. Back in the facility, Harper reviewed the after-action reports. Clean, efficient, and best of all, deniable. The Confederation still thinks we're defenseless. That's because they're looking for the wrong things, Amanda explained, showing him the quantum readings. We're not advancing along their technological path. We're creating our own." Santos joined them, her armor powering down. "The pirates' quantum cores will help us understand more about Confederation tech. Not that we need it anymore." "And the prisoners?" Harper asked. "Secured," Santos replied. "They're having trouble believing they were defeated by primitives. I almost feel sorry for them." Amanda turned to a screen showing the Confederation blockade. "They'll dismiss this as another mysterious disappearance. Their arrogance blinds them to the truth that humanity isn't just adapting to their technology. We're transcending it," Harper finished. "And when we're ready, they'll understand exactly why we warned them about our fury." Vaxthor stood before the Confederation Science Council, his crystalline form dulled with concern. The holographic displays around him showed a series of anomalous readings from Earth's quarantine zone. "The gravitational fluctuations are increasing," he reported, "and our long-range probes are detecting quantum signatures that shouldn't be possible for their level of development." The head counselor, a being of pure energy contained within a metallic shell, dismissed the concern with a wave of its photonic appendage. "Their primitive attempts at quantum manipulation are hardly worth our attention. The quarantine remains secure." Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Amanda Reynolds smiled as she watched the council meeting through their quantum-tapped feeds. "They're still not seeing it," she told Colonel Harper, who stood examining the latest test results from their growing fleet. "Confederation arrogance works in our favor," Harper replied. "Lieutenant Santos' team has already mapped their entire defense network. They're so focused on their established technology that they can't conceive of alternatives." In the quantum testing chamber, Santos was training a new group of pilots. The room hummed with potential as 20 humans learned to bend reality through sheer force of will and scientific understanding. "Remember," Santos instructed, "their ships push against space-time. We dance with it. Their technology forces the quantum field to obey. We ask it to cooperate." Amanda's quantum processor suddenly flagged an alert. "They're launching a new probe series," she announced. "More sophisticated quantum detection systems." "Let them come," Harper said confidently. "Mike, show them what we prepared." Chen activated their latest countermeasure. As the Confederation probes entered Earth's atmosphere, they encountered what appeared to be normal background radiation. In reality, they were seeing precisely what humanity wanted them to see, a carefully constructed quantum illusion. The first probe disappeared over the Atlantic. The second vanished above Asia. The third made it as far as the Rockies before joining its companions in a secure testing facility. "Their quantum cores are even more primitive than the pirates' tech," Chen reported, examining the captured probes. "They haven't innovated in centuries. Why would they? They thought they were the pinnacle of evolution." In orbit, the Confederation blockade recorded the probe's apparent destruction due to Earth's primitive defense systems. Their reports dismissed the losses as equipment malfunction, unable to conceive that humans could have developed technology beyond their understanding. "Council," Vaxthor addressed the emergency session. "Something is wrong." "The humans are." "The humans are contained," the head counselor interrupted. "Their violent nature is suppressed. Their primitive technology poses no threat. These anomalies are merely statistical outliers." Amanda played the recording for her team, unable to suppress a laugh. "They're so convinced of their superiority that they're ignoring every warning sign." "How many ships do we have ready?" Harper asked. Santos pulled up a quantum display showing their fleet deployment. Thousands of vessels, invisible to Confederation sensors, waited in quantum superposition around the globe. Each one powered by human consciousness, each capable of rewriting the laws of physics as the Confederation understood them. "We're ready," Santos confirmed. "The entire Confederation defense network has been mapped. Their communication systems are compromised. Their weapons will be useless against our quantum barriers." "And still they ignore the signs," Amanda mused, watching another Confederation probe disappear into their collection. "Their own history should have warned them. They quarantined us because they feared our potential for violence. But they never considered our potential for innovation." Harper's quantum encrypted phone buzzed. A message from Earth's unified command. The countdown had begun. Soon, the Confederation would understand exactly what they had created by trying to contain humanity. 5 years, Santos said softly. 5 years of patience, learning, and preparation. When do we show them? Amanda looked at the quantum readouts, at the fleet of ships that defied conventional physics, at the weapons that could reshape reality itself. She remembered her first warning to Vaxthor about the fury of a patient man. Soon, she promised. They thought they were containing a primitive species. Instead, they gave us the perfect environment to evolve beyond their comprehension. And when we reveal ourselves, they'll finally understand the warning. Harper finished. Too late. The Confederation capital world of Nexus Prime rotated serenely beneath its 3 suns. In the High Command Chamber, Vaxthor was making one final attempt to warn the Council. The quantum anomalies around Earth have reached impossible levels, he insisted. We must. A sudden silence fell over the chamber. Every quantum display, every communication device, every security system simultaneously deactivated. In orbit, the planet's defensive fleet hung powerless. Dr. Amanda Reynolds's voice echoed through the chamber, though no speaker was visible. We tried to warn you. Reality rippled. Lieutenant Santos materialized in the center of the council chamber, her quantum shift armor making her appear as if she existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Around her, Earth's hidden fleet revealed itself. Thousands of ships appearing in perfect formation throughout Confederation space. Impossible, the head counselor sputtered. Your species is quarantined. Primitive. You cannot. Cannot what? Colonel Harper asked, stepping through a quantum portal beside Santos. Cannot evolve. Cannot innovate. Cannot transcend your understanding of physics. In orbit, Earth's vessels demonstrated their power. They didn't fire weapons or launch attacks. Instead, they simply adjusted the quantum field around the Confederation's most powerful ships, rendering their technology inert. Your blockade wasn't a prison. Amanda's voice continued as she emerged from another portal. It was an incubator. You gave us exactly what we needed: time, focus, and motivation. Across Confederation space, quantum-shifted human teams appeared on every major world, every military installation, every strategic location. 5 years of silent mapping and preparation paid off as Earth's forces neutralized the Confederation's entire defense network in less than 15 minutes. This is impossible, Vaxthor whispered, his crystalline form dulled with shock. Our sensors showed no signs of this technology. Your sensors, Amanda explained, walking to the quantum display she had already hacked, were looking for what you understood. You never considered that we might develop something beyond your comprehension. She brought up a display showing human quantum technology. You push against space-time. We learn to dance with it. You force the quantum field to obey. We learn to make it our partner. Santos demonstrated, shifting through multiple realities before solidifying. Your ships move through space. Ours move space itself. Your quarantine, Harper added, was based on the assumption that humanity needed to be contained until we matched your level of civilization. But we didn't follow your path. We created our own. The head counselor's energy form flickered with fear. If you've had this power, why wait? Why not strike immediately? Amanda smiled, remembering her warning from 5 years ago. Because we needed to be certain, to be ready, to understand not just the technology, but the responsibility that comes with it. And now? Vaxthor asked. Now, Harper replied, you understand why we warned you about our fury, but more importantly, you'll understand something else about humanity. Throughout Confederation space, Earth's quantum fleet maintained its position. No weapons fired, no destruction rained down. Instead, humanity demonstrated something the Confederation had never expected from a violent, primitive species: restraint. We could destroy your civilization with a thought, Santos explained, her armor powering down in a gesture of peace. Instead, we're offering you a choice. Amanda stepped forward, her quantum processors already interfacing with the Council's systems. You can continue as you are, isolated, stagnant, fearful of change. Or you can join us in exploring what's really possible when we stop limiting ourselves to what we think we know. The fury of a patient species, Harper concluded, isn't in our capacity for violence. It's in our capacity for transformation. And now, after 5 years of patience, we're offering to share that transformation with you. The council chamber fell silent as the most powerful civilization in known space faced a reality they had never imagined. A species that hadn't just caught up to them, but had fundamentally transcended their understanding of what was possible. And in that silence, humanity's true power was finally understood, not in the weapons they could wield, but in the wisdom they had gained while waiting to reveal them. The Confederation Archives, a vast crystalline structure housing millions of years of galactic history, had never seen anything like the demonstration taking place in its central chamber. Dr. Amanda Reynolds stood before representatives from all 32 spacefaring species, her quantum processors projecting a real-time manipulation of reality itself. Your understanding of quantum mechanics, she explained, is like trying to understand an ocean by looking at a single drop of water. Behind her, Lieutenant Santos demonstrated by splitting her consciousness across multiple quantum states, existing in several realities simultaneously. The assembled aliens watched in stunned silence as she navigated between dimensions with the casual ease of someone walking between rooms. "Impossible," muttered a Confederation quantum theorist. "The energy requirements alone would be astronomical. Using your methods," Amanda interrupted, "because you force reality to comply with your understanding. We learn to work with it instead." Colonel Harper, watching from the sidelines, remembered their first breakthrough 5 years ago. "Show them the neural interface," he suggested. Amanda nodded, activating a quantum field that made the vast chamber transparent. Below, in a training facility they'd established on Nexus Prime, hundreds of human pilots were teaching selected Confederation scientists the basics of quantum consciousness integration. "Your species spent centuries developing technology to overcome the limitations of physics," Amanda continued. "We spent 5 years learning that those limitations were self-imposed." A holographic display showed the difference between Confederation and human quantum manipulation. The aliens' technology fought against space-time, brute-forcing their way through reality. The human method was more like a dance, a cooperative partnership with the fundamental forces of the universe. "Your quarantine was based on fear," Santos added, resolidifying into a single form. "Fear of our violence, our unpredictability. But you never asked why we developed those traits." "Survival," Harper explained. "Every advancement in human history came from our need to adapt, to overcome, to survive. You saw our capacity for violence, but missed our capacity for transformation." The Archive's quantum cores, centuries old and thought to be the pinnacle of technology, hummed in response to Amanda's presence. She interfaced with them effortlessly, showing the assembled representatives how primitive their most advanced systems now seemed. "5 years ago," she continued, "I warned your ambassador about the fury of a patient man. You thought it was a threat. It was actually a promise, not of violence, but of evolution." Vaxtor, his crystalline form still dulled from the shock of recent events, stepped forward. "The quarantine. We thought we were containing you, protecting the galaxy from your violent nature. Instead," Santos finished, "you gave us exactly what we needed: unity, purpose, focus." Harper activated another display, showing the network of quantum-shifted human vessels now integrated throughout Confederation space. They weren't positioned as an occupation force, but as a protective grid, already defending against threats the Confederation's sensors couldn't even detect. "Your greatest mistake," Amanda said softly, "wasn't underestimating our technology. It was underestimating our wisdom. You thought isolation would weaken us. Instead, it taught us patience." The archives recorded everything, documenting the moment when the galaxy's power structure fundamentally shifted, not through violence or conquest, but through transcendence. "So what happens now?" asked the head counselor, its energy form fluctuating with uncertainty. Amanda shared a look with her teammates before responding. "Now, you have a choice. Continue believing you've reached the pinnacle of evolution, or join us in discovering what's really possible." Santos demonstrated by creating a quantum gateway, showing visions of realities the Confederation had never imagined possible. "We've already begun teaching your scientists. Those willing to learn, to question their assumptions, are discovering abilities they never knew they had." The fury of a patient species, Harper concluded, isn't in its capacity for revenge, it's in its capacity for revolution. You tried to contain us until we matched your civilization. Instead, we transcended it. The Archive's crystals pulsed with new data as the greatest irony in Confederation history was recorded. The quarantine meant to protect the galaxy from humanity had instead protected humanity while it evolved beyond the galaxy's understanding. And in that moment, the true meaning of humanity's warning was finally understood, not as a threat of violence, but as a promise of transformation. 1 year after humanity's revelation, the Nexus Prime's Grand Assembly Hall bore little resemblance to its former self. Where once crystalline structures had dominated, now quantum fields rippled through reality itself, a visible manifestation of the changes sweeping through galactic civilization. Dr. Amanda Reynolds stood at the center of it all, watching as representatives from both Confederation worlds and newly discovered species gathered for the first galactic concordat. The quantum architecture of the hall, designed by her team, responded to the consciousness of every being present, creating an environment that transcended physical limitations. "Ready for your speech?" Lieutenant Santos asked, her quantum shift armor now standard wear for the mixed species peacekeeping force she commanded. "As ready as I'll ever be," Amanda replied, observing how former Confederation scientists now worked seamlessly with human quantum specialists. "Did you see the latest breakthrough from the Centauri team? The consciousness transfer protocol." Colonel Harper joined them, his uniform bearing the new insignia of the Combined Fleet Command, already implemented in the defense grid. The Crastal pirates won't know what hit them when they try their next raid. The assembly hall filled with beings of all forms, energy constructs, crystalline entities, organic species, and even some that existed primarily in quantum states, all brought together not by force, but by the promise of evolution. Amanda stepped onto the speaking platform, which adjusted its quantum field to make her visible and audible to all present, regardless of their sensory organs. 1 year ago, she began, the Confederation thought they were containing a primitive violent species. They feared our potential for destruction. What they failed to understand was our potential for transformation. The hall's quantum field rippled with agreement, a new form of communication that transcended traditional language barriers. In 5 years of quarantine, humanity didn't just advance, we revolutionized our understanding of reality itself. But our greatest achievement wasn't technological superiority. It was learning when not to use it. She gestured, and the quantum field displayed scenes from the past year. Former enemies working together, species sharing knowledge, civilizations advancing not through competition, but through cooperation. The fury of a patient species, she continued, isn't in its capacity for violence, but in its capacity for change. We could have used our advancement for dominance. Instead, we chose to use it for elevation. Santos demonstrated by creating a quantum portal, showing real-time images from across the galaxy. Trading posts where once hostile species now cooperated. Research stations where different civilizations shared discoveries. Defense platforms where former adversaries stood guard together. The Concordat we established today, Harper added, stepping forward, isn't built on fear or force. It's built on the understanding that true power lies not in controlling reality, but in working with it. Not in containing potential, but in nurturing it. Amanda activated the quantum cores, connecting every being in the hall in a moment of shared consciousness. We learned to dance with quantum fields, to partner with reality itself. And now we invite all species to join in that dance. The hall erupted in a display of unity that would have been impossible a year ago. Thousands of beings from dozens of species, sharing thoughts and emotions through the quantum field, each maintaining their uniqueness while contributing to a greater whole. The Confederation feared our fury, Amanda concluded, but they never understood its true nature. The fury of a patient species isn't destructive, it's transformative. And now, that transformation extends to all who wish to share in it. As the Concordat was formally established, Vaxthor, now serving as a bridge between old and new, approached Amanda. "We thought we were protecting the galaxy from humanity," he admitted, his crystalline form now interwoven with quantum patterns. "Instead, you protected us from our own stagnation." Amanda smiled, watching as humans and aliens alike explored the possibilities of their shared future. "The quarantine wasn't the end of humanity's story," she said. "It was just the beginning of the galaxies." And in the quantum fields that now connected all spacefaring species, a new understanding emerged. The greatest force in the universe wasn't fury or patience alone, but the wisdom to know how to use both to transform not just oneself, but all of reality itself.